Hey everyone, welcome to another top 10 list. This week I'm going to do my top 10 CSAs, top 10 Confederate States of America notes. Now, these aren't the most expensive notes. These are all notes that I have in my collection. There are other notes I'm looking for, but these are the ones that I've acquired so far. There are a lot more expensive notes to get, and I may not necessarily try to hunt those down because their prices are prohibitive. But it's nice to have a sprinkling of CSAs in your collection. So with that, here are my top 10 CSAs that you can add to your collection. And we're going to start off with a couple honorable mentions. The first honorable mention is a $1 CSA because these were used. Now, when they printed CSAs, they were printed on really rough paper. Not rough paper, but bad paper. It was usually really thin and it did not hold up very well. And you can see this note here is trashed because these were circulated. Because of the circulation and the conditions of these notes, it genuinely is a piece of paper, unlike the notes that we have today, which are actually cloth. So this is what they ended up looking like when they were circulated. That's part of the reason why the low denominations are worth as much as they are, because they're extremely difficult to find in conditions other than like this. So here's the $1. This one's from Richmond. I want to say that says, I don't even want to try to make out the date in there. What is that, 18? I want to say that's not the February 1864. That might be the 1863. Was that April 1863, possibly? Just a really tough note, but you can still make out the hand-signed signatures and the handwritten serial number. Nothing on the back there. But yeah, difficult notes to come by because they were so circulated. Also in that honorable mention is the $2 note. Once again, the $2 note in decent shape, hard to find because these were used. These were not put on a shelf, and these were not purchased to support the war. This was the stuff people were trying to spend. This one, if I remember, yeah, this is the February 17th, 1864 date. So yeah, these are hard to come by. They shouldn't cost you too much in these conditions, but in nicer shape, they can cost you quite a bit because they just aren't found that way. So those are my two honorable mentions. If you get a chance to grab one of those, like I said, condition almost even isn't a factor because they were all circulated like that. All right, number 10. One of the coolest cheap notes you're going to find is this one here, which is the February 17th, 1864. This is the last, I want to say it's the last issue of CSAs, and it's the $10 note. Now, if you get one in good condition, or in decent condition, I should say, you're going to see the bright red. It almost looks pink, but if you look real close, the ink is actually red, but there's a lot of white coming through on the back. Very cool note. These are easy to find. The back looks like play money. It's very interesting to see that. And you're also going to see that you can see how wide the cut is here and how narrow the cut is here. These were all hand cut from sheets. So you're going to see, here's part of another note here. As much as you'd love to say that's an error, it's not, because like I said, the sheets were hand cut. They weren't that good at lining them up and didn't really care because they were trying to do them quickly. So the $10 February 17th, 1864, beautiful note, $20 to $40, maybe a little more if it's in nicer shape. So definitely affordable, definitely a neat piece of history. That is number 10 on the list. Number 9. We've got a $50 bill featuring Jefferson Davis. And if we look, this is also from the last issue, February 17th, 1864. The $50 note, this one, once again, has the same backing. Once again, looking like play money. And you can see the price I paid for this one was $60. They're probably closer to $100 now in decent shape. But the $50 bill is interesting because they stamped the serial number rather than handwriting it. The signatures are handwritten on there. So overall, a very neat addition to the note, especially with Jefferson Davis on there. That's pretty cool. They all have the same obligation, which is 2 years after the ratification of a treaty of peace between the Confederate States and the United States, and then it says what does that say? My eyes are... Anyway, it says the Confederate States of America will pay to the bearer on demand $50. So yeah, this was worthless unless the South won, because it says right on there, will pay after a treaty between the two. Well, there was no treaty between the two because the Confederate States no longer exist. So it's just neat to see that obligation. That is number 9. Number 8, getting a little older. This is a $20 bill, and it just has such a beautiful picture of the ship right there. You can see another one in the background. Just so cool. And there is, I want to say that's the capstan. I believe that's what that is. That's what they would, you could see the holes where they would insert boards so that they could rotate this thing around to raise and lower the anchor, or even raise and lower sails. September 21st, 1861, $20 note. You can see the handwritten serial number. Oh, it's a trinary. 55345. So that's cool. Doesn't matter. You can see it also is hand signed. And look at the signatures. You can see that those two signatures were both done with different pens by different people. And you can even see there's a little bit of orange, a little bit of rust from the ink that was in the notes themselves. This almost has, to me, has the impression of being almost like a comic strip. I always get that feeling whenever I see this particular script, as if it was just written there and it was a part of a comic strip. Maybe it's just me. Nothing on the back of these. You can see the ink coming through because the paper was so thin, the way that is there, the way they signed it. And somebody was kind enough to write type 18 on the back of this note, which of course it is, but yeah, they shouldn't have done that. The 1861 $20 CSA, that one is number 8. Number 7, a very similar note. I should actually show these two side by side. You can see they both have basically the same image of the ship, and that's the ship being in the center is the major coincidence there, I guess you'd say. This particular one is a little bit older. This was from July 25th, is that? Yeah, 1861. And you can see the subtle differences. If you look at the 20, how they've got the 20 written here, it's got the little bumps, and in this one it's just a circle, as well as the 2 X's for the Roman numeral 20, subtly different. The ship, I pointed out, there's a little bit of a difference there. And on this side, they just have the number 20 versus the image of the sailor. This one is a little bit more expensive to get because it was only printed for such a short period of time. Like I said, this one issued July 1861, and then here we've got something issued September. So just a simple 2-month difference in the time span for this particular note. That makes this one a little tougher to get, a little bit more rare, and a little bit more desirable just because of that. I don't have the price off the top of my head on this. Let me check it in the book just to see, because I happen to have my book handy. And someone's going to ask, so I will put paper money of the United States. In the back, we've got all the Confederate stuff. And this one was not type 18. One previous to that was type 18. There is, where is it? There it is, right there. You can see that one starts at 85, 175, and a 20. And then once you get to uncirculated, you're talking $1,250. Versus, let's see if I can get this one in here. There is the type 18 starting at 50, and it only gets up to 175 and uncirculated. So yeah, 2 notes, very similar, huge difference in price. That is number 6, 10, 9, 8, 10, 9, 8. That was number 7. Yeah, I can count. Number 6, I have a pair of notes. This is a $1, and this one here is also a $1. These are from, let's see what it says here, June 2nd, 1862, and this was the original version of the note. You can see it has Lucy Pickens on there. You can see the ships on the top. The note is the same. These are both the same with one subtle difference. When they printed this note, it was thought by one of the printers, here's the back, that this particular note would be very easy to counterfeit because it was just one color. So there was a lot of woodblock counterfeits where people would make carvings into wood blocks and do it that way. So the printer, on his own accord, printed some notes that had this green 1 overprint, and here's the number 1 there as well. And he wasn't supposed to do that. Because he did that, and he wasn't supposed to do that, that kind of got him in trouble, but it made these a little bit more rare. These are the ones you're actually looking for, and if I remember right, I just want to look at this real close before I say it. This particular one has an error. I don't know if it even says it. No, it doesn't say it here. Doesn't say it here. Doesn't say it. But if you look right here, it is a gutter fold. So that's cool. Confederate States of America, $1, green with a gutter fold error. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, this one is more common. This one will start off at about 45. This one will start off at about 75, and they go up from there. Getting them both isn't that hard to do, but if you're only going to get one, try for the green overprint, because that one is a little bit scarcer and has the better story with it. That one is number 6. Number 5. Along the same route, we have the $2 note. Same thing, $2, June of 1862. And of course, this $2 is also June of 1862. And the only difference here, once again, it has the 2 overprint. This is known as the Slayer note. That is the South slaying the Union. Except that didn't happen. Here you can more clearly read the obligation. 6 months after the ratification. This one says 6 months after. The other one I thought said 2 years. 6 months after the ratification of a treaty of peace between the Confederate States and the United States. So that was cool. One of the other things you're going to see is some of the notes will have 3rd series. Some of the notes will have 2nd series. Those are varieties, not errors. And even though this was printed first, the overprint was done on different notes. So some of the overprints say 3rd series, some of the overprints say 2nd series. This one clearly says 3rd series, even though it doesn't have an overprint. So there's all kinds of varieties, not errors, varieties that you can find. It makes collecting these particular notes that much more fun. So that one is number 5. Number 4. Got a $100 note. This one is known, I want to say this is the slave note because they are in the field. Let's see, Mr. Indigestion himself, he's holding in a burp, looks like. Anyway, the $100, this one is from Richmond, Virginia, October 2nd, 1862. This one is interesting. You find a lot of these with the interest stamp paid, and there are people that actually collect the notes based on which interest stamp has been paid and by what date. So it's kind of neat to put all those together. These go for a little, about face value, maybe a little bit more right now. And it's an interesting note to have just because it is from 1862. So it is one of the earlier notes from the Confederate States of America. The larger denomination notes you can usually find in better condition because these weren't purchased to spend, they were purchased to support the war. So whoever purchased this note probably just put it on a shelf and let it sit there because that was their way of supporting the war effort. So that's why you see so many of the larger denominations in such good shape compared to how rough the smaller denominations were. These were bought to support the war. These were bought to spend. That is number 4. Number 3, another $100 note. This one is much later, February 17th, 1864, one of the last $100 notes. And this one features Lucy Pickens in the front and center. Lucy Pickens was, I want to say, the wife of the governor of South Carolina, was it? I forget which state exactly, but she was known as the Queen of the South. Not that she was a queen and not that the South had queens, but that was just her nickname. You can once again see the hand-signed notes on there, and they did stamp the serial numbers on here. Checking the back, it has the 1864 blue back like that, type 65. This particular one is split, so this one may have actually seen a little circulation because at this point, hyperinflation was starting to take effect. So these are a little tougher to find in nice shape, but they are much more abundant because of the hyperinflation. You're also going to find probably quite a few of these that are counterfeit because the Union was trying to destabilize the currency. Once again, the things you're looking for the signatures, how they've got the rust look to it. You're looking to make sure that the paper itself is the same type of paper. And there's a few other markers. You can usually pick up a Confederate book that'll go into detail. Pierre Frick's book is an incredible resource for Confederate notes. That one is number 3. Number 2, I have another pair of $100 notes. This is from August 13th, 1862 and August 19th, 1862. These two notes here are essentially the same. They've been referred to as the Milkmaid notes, which you have the Milkmaid on here. But these particular notes are actually part of the top 100 of all time. And there are 2 different versions. This is each version. And the way you distinguish them, it's funny because when you look side by side, this one in the back looks counterfeit, but that's the way they all look. I've had numerous ones of these, and this type always looks this way. This type always has the clear image. The way to tell the 2 apart is on the train itself. It's interesting that you've got a man with a horse, you've got a train, you've got a ship in the background. Pretty much every way to move stuff throughout the country in one note. But if you look real close, you can see the steam here goes straight up. And in this one, it has what's known as the diffused steam. So that is the key difference between these two. Is this type 39? I want to say that this is type 39. I can check that in the book too. But yeah, those are the 2 big differences on this. And like I said, this particular note happens to be part of the top 10. Let's see what the book has to say on those, as I have to flip through everything. There it is. Here and here. Type 39 and type 40. Type 39 has the regular steam, and you can see how crisp she looks. And type 40 has the diffused steam, and you can see how dark and blurry she looks. So that's just the way it looks. And yeah, you're talking in VG8 45. In a 20, it gets up to 65, 85, 125 in decent shape like that. So yeah, these are pretty nice, and being part of the top 100, that's also cool. And finally, number 1, I brought out my $500 Confederate States of America CSA 1864. This, of course, would be from the last issue, February 17th, 1864. It is hand-signed. There are a couple different versions of this. You can see this one, the red is almost completely faded out on. There are other versions where the red is extremely dark. In fact, when I first saw one of those dark ones, I immediately thought, is mine counterfeit? Before my brain registered that, no, mine's graded, mine's real. But yeah, there are 2 versions of the color, the pink and then the dark red. So you will see that. Nothing listed on the back, so if you do happen to find a note that's got something on the back, that's probably counterfeit or a replica. Confederate States of America $500 note, much cheaper than a regular $500 bill, that's for sure. So if you wanted to get a larger denomination with some history and a classic look, well, there you go. This one I'm sure I overpaid for, but I wanted to make sure that I got one of these that was graded because I wanted to make sure it was real. Now I can tell the difference, but at the time I couldn't. So I really wanted to make sure this was real. That was the best way to do it. So that is my top 10 CSAs. If you learned anything new, go ahead and hit that like button. If you like what you see and you want to see more, please subscribe. Love reading all your comments. Guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.